All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pursuit Live. I'm your producer, Chris, and joining me, as always, is my partner in lives, Mr. Dave Hawkins.
What's up, killers? What's going on?
All right, and tonight we got a pretty special guest. I hope everybody's ready for this conversation because this should be a good one. We are joined tonight by Dr. Robbie Kroger, host and creator of the Blood Origins podcast. Robbie, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, not just the Blood Origins podcast, the Blood Origins movement, man. It is
like that, the mentality.
I'm with it.
Yeah, it's who knew? Like, if you had asked me 5 years ago when we started, like when you dropped the first piece of content, like where would you be in 5 years? Jeez, I had no idea we were going to be where we are right now.
Yeah, we're going to get to it. You've earned it. You've earned every piece of it.
All right, so a couple quick announcements, everybody. Number one, time is running out for the 2024 Pursuit Live charity fundraiser raffle. All right, we are going to be drawing the tickets very soon. So within the next week, please, if you haven't already purchased your tickets, contact Dave, myself, or Rob. We'll get you guys hooked up with some tickets for your chance to win the 2024 Matthews Lift, fully outfitted with the target, arrows, broadheads, and a ground blind, everything you need to get started. Or if you're a seasoned bow hunter, it's a great bow to upgrade to. I just bought one. I love it. So please, all the proceeds are going to the American Bear Foundation, Wounded Warriors in Action, and the NYPD Archery Team. You're helping out 3 great organizations, and you got a shot at winning some great equipment. So please hit us up because tickets are this is your last chance. Get at it. With that, I guess we could just dive right into it. Dave, why don't you take it away here?
All right. So, Robbie, good evening, buddy. Thank you again for joining us tonight. And for anybody that doesn't know, this is Robbie Kroger from Blood Origins. So what we like to do in the beginning is we like to kind of set the stage a little bit for our guest. Not so much for Blood Origins, but yourself. Basically, who are you? Like, what's the everyday man behind the scenes for yourself? Where'd you grow up? Obviously, people hear a slight accent, so maybe you could touch on your nationality a little bit. And then, obviously, anybody that follows the page and the Blood Origins movement, like you mentioned, you guys are all over the place. So we can kind of touch on basically maybe like what's home base for Blood Origins. So however you want to handle that, the stage is yours, Robbie. The show is yours.
Yeah, I appreciate that, boys. Thank you so much. You may have to get used to a better accent than you 2 New York accents for the next hour or so. So
turn the subtitles on if you need.
Yeah, exactly. Robbie Kroger. I home base right now is Memphis, Tennessee. It's a very good local place for me and my family. 2 small kids, 10 and 12, 2 little savages that really helped me sort of decide that this is something that I wanted to do. I needed to understand why. I needed to communicate to them like why I hunt or why we were hunting. And I could biologically, I have a PhD in restoration ecology and biology. And like I could explain to them we're trapping because of nest predators and we want to increase certain population of whether it's a ground nesting bird like a quail or a turkey or something like that. But I couldn't communicate like my heart to them because I was a new hunter as well. Like I didn't hunt in South Africa. I came from a family really steeped in hunting heritage, but I just never got the opportunity to hunt. I lived in a town of 8.5 million people, just like if I was living in New York. You just don't have friends or if you're in those circles, you just don't have people who hunt or do things. So that was me. But I had lots of good stories from my grandfather hunting buffalo and elephant in Mozambique, and my father killing a buffalo for his 16th birthday present. Wow. With a 4.58 Wesley Richards double rifle. So I got a lot of really cool stuff, and I just didn't have the actual thing to go hunting. And so it was just it really just allowed me to say, wow, man, maybe I need to just understand why I hunt more. And that's what Blood Origins started at. It started at this like idea of like, let's explore people's why. So, Dave, your why, and like why do you hunt? And people, I couldn't really find it. So I was like, man, I'll just build it. I'll just build this thing that I needed to, that is Blood Origins. And that was 5 years ago. I'm a family man. I took on Blood Origins full time January 3rd, a year ago. I've been a professor for 6 years in the wildlife fisheries department. Um, I was the chief scientist of the BP oil spill, the federal entity that got born out of the BP oil spill. I was the chief scientist of that entity. I played a role in the restoration game in the state of Mississippi for 9 years as a consultant. And now, after 5-6 years of essentially working overtime, 2 jobs, now I have really found my passion, and really we can go all over the world. And at the heart of what we do now is just conveying the truth about hunting and hunters. That's it. That's all we do. And it doesn't matter where it is, whether we're talking about big tuskers on the border of Tanzania and Kenya, or we're talking about punching forest and bird and anti-use organization in New Zealand in the face, or defending black bear hunting in the state of California. We are literally global. We have a global reach. We're probably the biggest nonprofit in the digital media space, which is where everyone lives today. And yeah, I'm just super blessed to be in the position we are and have opportunities like this to talk about my heart, the reason for Blood Origins, so people can really get an understanding about me a little bit more, and obviously Blood Origins a little bit more. And I think I'll end this little beginning bit like this. It's not often that you find a nonprofit nor a private company in which you actually feel the heart of the organization through the founder or through the spokesman, and that's who I am. So if you want to reach me, if you want to talk to Robbie at Blood Origins, I'm pretty much the guy answering your Instagram DMs. So I'm not hard to find. I'm easy to interact with, and you can get a hold of me. And that's very, very unique. And we have a personality because of me. And we're going to gain more personality as we grow and as we expand and we get new team members and new faces. But that's the feel of Blood Origins. I think is the best thing that I love about it, is that it has a personality to it. And I get to imbibe like my personality into it. And whoever we're going to hire is going to do the same thing.
I just want to touch on something for everybody in the audience. And I don't know if Rob is listening, but I'm going to ride on him about this. A little bit about me, Robbie. I'm an engineer and primarily environmental engineer. So everything you were talking about consulting, conservation, the BP oil spill, everything in your face, Rob. All right.
Yeah, there was, we were a company of engineering, right? We were a civil engineering department with a bit of environment to it. And so I was the chief scientist. We had, wetland ecologists, we had delineation guys, but then obviously we had civil engineers and the things that we need to build oyster reefs and, all sorts of things.
Right. Well, let's touch on this. Without a doubt, you have created something that is tangible. Like, we had no issues. Like, Rob, our production manager, had no issues reaching out to yourself. And I think within the day or so, it was very quick. We were like, holy crap, he responded already and he's willing to do it. We're like, that's awesome.
Well, that's the thing, right? When we have so many people reaching out to us and people talking to us and whatnot. I was taught a very valuable lesson probably early on in my career. If there's something you can handle in 2 minutes, handle it.
I like it.
And that's how we do it. Like, if something comes in, I can handle it in 10 seconds, I'm going to handle it. And we're going to move on. And
one thing, Chris and I totally, that's why we work so well together. We're both construction based. As you watch the show a little bit more, you'll see we're oil and water with a lot of things. But when it comes to the show, we actually work together quite well. And it's for that exact reason. Like, let's just get it done. If it could be done in a text message, great. If it needs an email, all right. But if it could be done in that 2-second phone call, boom, call me. You got it. So without a doubt, we appreciate your quick response. And again, the willingness to share your time with us. And it's truly appreciated.
Yeah, I'm never going to say no to anybody. Regardless if your audience is 2 or 2,000, we're never going to say no, because, you feel it. You feel important. It's important enough to reach out to us to say, hey, we want to hear from you. And how dare I say, you're not important enough for me to actually speak to you.
Well, for everybody that's in the audience right now between Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, I really hope you really respect what you're hearing right now. 'Cause that's you don't hear that a lot. So I'm tipping my hat to you for saying that, Robbie, and it's true. I appreciate that mindset. Blood Origins now, when you really decided roughly about 5 years ago, do you think it was more geared for conservation reasons or more awareness reasons? Or was it a combination of the both?
It was neither when we started, dude.
Okay.
It was more just exploring the heart of a hunter. And that's what we started. That's what we got known for. We got known for like telling these stories of people, of different hunters, from really famous hunters from Jim Shockey and Will Primos to Joe Blow down the street. And then when we, at the end of the first 3 years of Blood Origins, I hadn't actually raised a single cent of money, and we hadn't gone down the sponsorship model. And I'd, you guys are in it. All the people that are sort of like in the hunting industry space want to be, I don't know, an influencer. They want to get sponsorship funding. They want to get partnership funding, and we tried. But little did I know I was going up against 1,000 other people doing the same thing, and everyone told me no, which was actually a blessing in disguise because then I didn't belong to anyone.
Yeah.
And I could say what I wanted. I could speak to who I wanted. But we had to figure out a business model that would allow us to survive. And 3 years ago, we converted ourselves into a 501c3 nonprofit. So we're a charity. We're just like your NWTF, your Ducks Unlimited, your RMEF. We have a supporters program. So if anybody's listening to us, you can go onto our website, find a supporters program. And for the cost of a cup of coffee a month, you can support us and what we do. And you can do that out the goodness of your heart. But if you like free stuff, we give free stuff away every month. And so we actually just created a model in which I like to say is we don't belong to anyone, we belong to everyone. So all the bullet companies should support us, all the gun companies should support us, all the camera companies should support us, regardless of what we wear, what we shoot, and how we shoot it. So when we turned ourselves into a nonprofit, then all of a sudden, to your point, like the avenue of conservation really opened up. So we do direct conservation projects all over the world. We find great projects, we go fundraise for those projects, and then we implement them. And then most importantly, we tell the world about them. We also got into the awareness lane, the advocacy lane. Like, oh, do you know that, the state of New York right now, let's talk about New York. The state of New York just passed out of the Senate a bill to ban the import of trophies into the state of New York. Why and what's wrong with that? And so that lane of advocacy and awareness really opened up to us. And so now all of a sudden we've got our content world, we've still got our hunter story world, we've got our conservation world, we've got our awareness advocacy world. And with those 3-4 things sitting there, now we just expand our content, right? We have lots of different podcasts. We have lots of different content. We have infographics. We've got small videos, medium length videos, long videos, and documentaries, feature films that go into the film festival space. So we pretty much are, if you think it, in terms of the content we create it for, again, the sole mission right now is conveying the truth about hunters and hunting. End of story.
Man, I love it when a guest is as passionate as you are. It makes our job easy. We just get to sit back, enjoy a little drink, and let you tell your story. It's so simple for you because you're speaking from the heart. Like nothing about this is rehearsed for you or scripted for you. You're just speaking on raw emotion and connection, which is really what Chris and I, when we started this venture of trying to do this show, we're like, that's what we want it to be. We want this to be like a real raw experience for everybody, not just because of the live factor, but that connection at some point or another. If you consider yourself like a true outdoors man or woman, there's one time in your life where you're like, you know what, that one scenario right there, it got me hooked and there's no turning back. The show does lean a little bit more hunting heavy naturally, even though it's full outdoor, venue. We talk about archery hunting a lot in specific and how a lot of us feel like there's a connection to like something very primitive, like deep down in the core of your soul as a human. And it's something very unique. That doesn't matter if you rifle hunt or shotgun hunt, but there's something about that aspect of having that stick and string in hand, and you're that close to your target animal. It's something it's hard to explain sometimes. It's easy to explain within our comrades here, but if you're trying to explain that to somebody who's never felt it before, it's hard. It really is that full adrenaline rush, the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. If something happens to go wrong the last second, it's very unique. And I think that's what really, it either separates a lot of people, but it's also what brings so many people back to it. It's a very humbling experience. So it's just the name alone, Blood Origins. Credit to yourself or whoever was behind, making that. It really strikes. It's simple, but it's so effective and powerful. The wording.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was actually called In the Blood to start with.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know that we had to change our name. And we didn't have to. So if you watch a Blood Origins episode, and these Blood Origins episodes is what we started with, right? It's this Hunter's Hearts. We've done 78 of them now in 6 years. And episode 1 is my story. So if you want to get to know me a little bit more and like why I started Blood Origins, just go back to number 1 and you can just Google it. Just Google, Robbie Kroger Blood Origins episode and it'll come up. Interestingly, it just, for me, it was like, man, this is the story that we want to tell. And, to your point of like archery hunting, in the storytelling game, it was like, okay, you got to tell your heart. Like you really have to, like, you got to figure it out. Like Dave, when you get in an elevator, I know it's difficult and complicated to explain archery hunting, but if a non-hunter steps into the elevator with you and he goes, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm a bow hunter. Why? And you literally have 20 seconds before she steps off the elevator to give a positive message in. And so that's what these stories are. And if you watch a Blood Origins episode, at the end, everything is non-scripted. None of the episodes are scripted at all, period, except the ending. And the ending is everyone has their own story. This is mine. It's in the blood. And we had filmed 3 episodes before I talked to Will Primos about Blood Origins. And I showed him Blood Origins and I showed him how we filmed. And I showed him a sort of sample video. And I knew we had something when Will Primos turned around to me and he said, how did you film that? And I said, oh, don't worry, we've got our ways and whatnot. And he said to me then, he said, do you own the name? I said, yeah, we got a federal trademark on, connect the pulse in the blood or something like that. I can't remember what we had. We had no idea what we were doing. And he said, are there any other people in the space? And I said, well, there's a 12-year-old kid in Wisconsin that has In the Blood Outdoors. And then there was a guy in California, interestingly enough, that was pitching a show to Sportsman and Outdoor Channel called Fire in the Blood. And I had seen, he had an Instagram page. He had done like a mule deer hunt, a grizzly hunt, a black bear hunt, a fly fishing thing in the Turks and Caicos. He had a shit ton of money. And I told Will this, and he says, I would pivot right now. I'd change the name right now. And I was like, oh, I don't want to change the name. The ending's already done. 3 episodes are done. I can't go back and film the episodes. And so long and hard, we thought about like, where do we come from? Our heritage, our culture, our origins really are seated with the people that made us, our parents, our grandparents, and that's all part of your DNA. So in the middle of our logo, there's a DNA like this. This is the DNA. Yep. And the shape, the blood is spelt in the shape of a bullet, if you haven't looked at it too closely. And then coming out of the DNA helix is this family tree representing your family, your lineage. And we just thought like long and hard, and we're like, man, the DNA is floating around our body and it's moving around our body and it's in our blood, and that's where our origins lie, and Blood Origins. And that's how we came up with the name.
It's always fluid, though. It's always moving. It's always changing. And that is directly where yourself and your organization comes in.
Oh, I like that. I haven't thought about that. Nice, Dave. Look at you.
if you stay static, that DNA, it's always evolving, it's always changing, and that for you, that equals the hurdles in your immediate future. What is the next immediate conservation act you're gonna have to, put up a fight against? What's the next effort of? I did want to ask you, is there a specific animal or a specific event that you really remembered reading a story, or you witnessed it, like you really wanted to take a very active approach with helping conservation for that? It's a two-part question. An aspect of education, again, that you either witnessed or you heard about, where you really wanted to take a strong stance on educating, more of an advocacy approach to it.
No, not really. We come across good stories all the time. We come across good conservation projects all the time.
Okay.
And for instance, I'll give you an example. We were in Botswana last June for 16 days. We filmed a big elephant documentary on the impact of elephant hunting in Botswana. Came across this primary school in Nata. The Nata Conservation Trust is a trust that's set up to manage hunting. They get revenues from elephant hunting in, and then they disperse it through various organizations to do projects. And one of the projects they do is with this one primary school. So we went in to talk to the principal about the primary school and what they do. I was just so impressed with the principal. He'd been there 34 years. He had such passion. He had posters on the wall that said, like, laziness is the first step to corruption. And just had this mentality about him. And he was talking about how proud he was of his teachers. He kept a running list of how good the teachers were doing from a percentage perspective. And we were talking about like incentivizing teachers, and they gave a big trophy out to the best teacher of 4 different primary schools. And I said, man, that's amazing. But you know what, is a better incentive for teachers to perform best is money. Like anything with money, it incentivizes people to do better. And what better thing could you invest in than a teacher educating the future generation of a foreign nation, the future leaders potentially of a foreign nation? And I asked the guy, I said right then and there, I said, how much do you think you would give for the prize? And he looked at me super sternly and he was like, 5,000 pula. And 5,000 pula is $350 converted. And it didn't matter what he was going to say. I was ready to say yes. It didn't matter the number, but he said 350. And so we went out and raised enough money to pay for each primary school is going to get their own best teacher award, and we've got enough money for 2 years now. So to give you an idea, that's this kinds of things that we come across. It touches your heart. You're like, heck yes, we need to be involved here. We need to do this. We need to tell this story, because what better story is there for hunting to be investing in the education of young kids that really, without it, are really just caught in this maelstrom of a poverty cycle that is typically Africa or any real rural place anywhere in the world.
I'm just soaking it in. Honestly, I'm just taking a minute, soaking it in. This is
you can go onto our website and you can see all these different projects that we've been involved in. We've got documentary projects, we've got conservation projects.
Absolutely.
And we're just looking for more and more and more,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's your Instagram, as thorough as it is. I don't want to say it doesn't do it justice. It does, but the amount that you're involved in is truly impressive, and it's vast.
Yeah,
so we're gonna do a very thorough job, and at the end of the show, make sure we get everything tagged up. We'll make sure we get all your links synced up, and we appreciate it. I know Chris will say the same thing. We appreciate the adventure you've taken on. It's so important. A lot of guys on this show that have come on, we in a lighthearted way, we've joked about it. If there's no hunting or fishing in this world, we don't want to be a part of it. That's a sad time in this world. And on the very shallow level, it's true. You guys taking that statement and brought it to a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually being proactive about it. Chris, I think I'm good at this point, man. I think it's your time to hop on in, and let's just keep this going. It's a very, very informative show. So thank you, Robbie.
All right. So I guess I got a couple detailed questions. I really want to dig into your mind here a little bit. So kind of bear with me as we get into this. So we got into this, like your spark, your inspiration for starting Blood Origins. Now, why don't you kind of walk us through your first year in operation? Like what were some early successes that you had, and then maybe some things that didn't go as planned and lessons learned along the way?
Yeah, I think we were fortunate enough in the beginning to get a couple of really amazing breaks. Number one, funnily enough, the second person I interviewed is a guy called Lake Pickle. Lake Pickle, it was at the time a cameraman for Primus hunting. But before he was a cameraman for Primus, he was a student of mine at Mississippi State. And so I was able to talk to Lake and say, Lake, do you want to do this? He says, yep, I think it's what you're talking about, what you're hitting on right now is exactly what we should be doing. We had a big meeting in the hunting industry space. We should be getting into the storytelling game more. I said, okay, excellent. And so we did Lake's story. And I said, okay, once we do it, Lake, can we put this in front of Will? Would that be possible? He said, yep, no problems. Let's do it. So we put it in front of Will, and Will obviously loved it. And what I'd done is I'd done my research and knew this was in June of 17. I knew in August of 17, Jim Shockey was coming to the Mississippi Extravaganza, Wildlife Extravaganza. And I told Will, I said, I'd like to meet Jim Shockey. And he says, you want to interview Jim Shockey for Blood Origins? I said, no. I just want to plant a seed to say, I want to do his Blood Origins episode in the future. And so I was fortunate enough to have dinner with Will and Jim. Jim at the time was, very cordial, said, yep, I'm interested. And when he left, I was like, all right, let's come film you. And he was like, no, you need to slow down and you need to start like learning to walk. You can't start sprinting. You have to learn how to walk. And I was naive to what we were doing and distribution and all that kind of stuff. I had no idea. Like Jim Shockey even said to me, he goes, before we move a second further, you need to explain to me your distribution strategy. And I had to Google what a distribution strategy was. I didn't know. And so, we had a couple of good breaks, and I put it in front of Cuz Strickland. We filmed Cuz Strickland. He was a stalwart of the Southeastern filming game. And really, it was just tenacity in the beginning. We really didn't have any sort of setbacks at all. It was just like, if somebody said yes to me, I was going to go do it. And, luckily we found a young cameraman that understood what I was looking for, didn't ask to be paid the world because he was trying to meet new people. And I said, I'll introduce you to everyone I get introduced to, and let's just go do this. And so that's how we really started.
So what would you say like was maybe an early failure that you learned from?
Oof. Man, I can't remember one. Like, honestly,
that's a good answer.
I can't remember one. Like, we were told, like, you're not supposed to film that way so many times, but that's just how we are. That's now developed our style. I guess, the failure was running, like asking too much too quickly and without knowing what I was actually doing. And Jim Shockey was the one who was put the brakes on, like really put the brakes on hard. And was like, no, you're not moving any further now before you prove yourself.
Right. All right. So now look at you're a few years in now. Looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently? Whether for for the good, for the bad, either way, is there, if you could go back and maybe change some things, what would you kind of look at as something to take and learn from and maybe do differently?
It's interesting. A lot of people would say they would answer that, maybe we should have started like we've ended, like right away we knew we were going to be a charity, so let's just start. But it wouldn't have worked. And here's why. In those 3 years, I actually developed a brand recognition. I developed a name. And so when we turned ourselves into a nonprofit, we were already a proven entity. And I knew we were right on track when we turned ourselves into a nonprofit. And again, we had no idea what we were doing. I turned myself into a nonprofit. I didn't have a platform. I didn't have a platform to receive monies. It was like PayPal kind of scenario. I set up a PayPal. I knew nothing what I was doing. It was just, riding by the sort of seat of my pants constantly. And so maybe to your point, like, could I have done a little bit more research about like what I was trying to do and how I was trying to do it? Absolutely. But that would have taken time, and I'm not a kind of guy that just waits to like learn stuff. I'm just going to learn it on the go, and we're still building, like, the whole analogy of you building an airplane as you're flying the airplane. We're doing that right now. We're still building the airplane. So yeah, as soon as we turned ourselves into a nonprofit and I announced it through our social media, we got 50 people donating us money that first day.
There you go.
And I was like, okay, we got something. And if we had like announced ourselves on the scene as a nonprofit right away, it would have taken us probably a year to get 50 people giving us money.
Now, you've interviewed a lot of big name people. If you could go back through all your entire catalog and pick out one episode that was your favorite, whether it's for whether it's for who the person was or what they stood for, the message or anything like that, or maybe it may have been a hero of yours, somebody that you wanted to, you always wanted to talk to. If you could pick one out, not even one, even if it could be a couple, I don't want to limit you to just one. What would you say would probably be something that was your best work?
So I get asked that question a lot, like, what's your best episode? And again, it's tough, right? They're all different. They're all great. That's why we picked them. But there's two that stand out. Number one is Cuz Strickland, because my father was with me. And Cuz said, I asked, can I bring my father up? It was hunting season. He says, do you want your father to hunt? I said, man, that would be amazing. And really, it was the only time I've ever been able to deer hunt with my dad and really hunt any big game with my dad. Dad died 2 years ago. So Cuz gave me the opportunity to hunt with my dad. And my dad, on the way up to film Cuz, said to me, he's like, I don't understand this thing, Blood Origins. I don't get it. And I said, okay. And I interviewed Cuz, and Cuz's interview is just incredibly emotional. And it was just an amazing interview. And when I finished it, my dad was on a rocking chair behind me, just watching the whole thing. And I went up to him, I said, how was that? And he says, I understand now. I understand what you're doing. And so to me, that episode is obviously, is cherished for me because I got to sit in a pop-up ground blind with my dad and Cuz talking about hunting, and my dad hunting with Cuz and me. So that was exceptional. The other one, which is pretty cool, is when I was growing up in South Africa, we were big PS2, PS1 kind of kids. And one of the games we played constantly was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Nice.
And there was a character on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater called Jeff Rowley, a skateboarder out of Liverpool, England. Well, turns out Jeff Rowley is a huge hunter, huge desert sheep hunter. He doesn't obviously get the opportunity, but he's a guide for desert sheep in California. And we got introduced to Jeff Rowley, and we went out to California into the desert, and we filmed Jeff Rowley talking about hunting. And it was just like surreal. Like, this is the guy that I used to play on a PlayStation back in South Africa. And here he is in front of me saying amazing things about what we do at Blood Origin. And he still DMs me nowadays. He's like, man, how you doing, Robbie? You're killing it. It's just like, man, that's Jeff Rowley, baby.
Kick flips in the bush.
Yeah.
I think everybody remembers Tony Hawk, and if you don't, you're probably too young to be watching this show. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I do want to touch on something now. Early on in our show, we started this early last year, and there was an episode I did where I actually took one of your shows.
What?
Yeah, and it was an episode with Travis T-Bone Turner.
Oh, nice.
And the message
celebrate.
Yes, we're a lot of deer hunters that watch this show, and everybody that watches this show knows T-Bone. Like, let's face it. But the message that he conveyed was so powerful. When I first watched that, it stuck out in my mind. And when we started this show, Dave was off that night. It was just me. And I decided I was going to bring on, various people throughout the episode. And I took your episode of T-Bone and we broke it down. We broke his message down into 4 different parts. I had notes on it, and
wow.
And I think that even the guests, I didn't let anybody know what we were doing ahead of time. And I just played the episode, and I said, I want everybody's honest reaction and their first thoughts to each part of this video and something that you're taking away from it. And honestly, that video is probably one of the most powerful videos I've ever seen on the internet when it comes to hunting. And it's the message is, it's on point with what you're trying to do, with what we're trying to do, with what I think everybody that watches this show is interested in, that promotion of the outdoor community as a whole.
We preach it. We try very hard
Yes.
to live it every day. That's the commitment, and that's where we got to hold everybody accountable. We got to hold ourselves accountable, our fellow hunters. We got to hold each other accountable. That's part of the ethics of hunting. Yeah, that's one of the first things you learn: hunter safety and ethics. It's if we lose the ethics side or that camaraderie side or that positive, like if we lose that, it's a slippery slope, and it won't be long before we lose it entirely. That was a great show. I was in the airport. I think I was in BWI airport watching the show.
Amazing.
I wish I could be there for that one. You guys did a great job that night.
Thank you. That really means a lot to me.
Yeah, that was so thank you for letting me not license your content and use it on our show. But
you're fine.
I think that episode in particular stands out in my mind just because it was so moving. And the people, I had 8 different guests on that night that were a part of the discussion. And even as we were breaking it down, some of them had, I don't think any of them had ever seen the video before. So as we're playing it, there was almost silence on the other end. Like everybody was just so awestruck in what T-Bone had to say that it was almost a tearjerker at that point. Like honestly, it hit me in the heart pretty well.
Sure.
And I've seen it, 2 dozen, 3 dozen times.
Yeah, that's the point, right? That's the point, is that I think one of the things that we struck out to do right in the beginning, and sometimes we've been, you talk about you talk more about failures and things that we would do differently. But one of the questions that a lot of people ask is have you heard any negative feedback about what you do? And obviously we've had quite a bit. And one of the biggest pieces of negative feedback we get is that we're too emotional. And I was like, really? And it stems from the idea that I think that, hunting and hunters are supposed to be like this real, male dominated, beat our chests, not supposed to show emotion, we're supposed to be just killers kind of scenario. And I think that, being vulnerable is something that you're not supposed to show. And being emotional is something that you're not supposed to show. And maybe that's a symptom of even today's society, is that, my dad, and I think maybe it's changing more. Like my dad was not the huggy, I love you, son kind of dad. He was old school dad, hardly ever hugged you, never said I love you kind of scenario. Whereas like me to my kids, I'm constantly cuddling them, constantly snuggling them, constantly giving them kisses, constantly saying I love you. And to me, like that's okay. And I think it's okay to show your heart more in hunting. And I think it's okay to show your emotion more in hunting, because it is emotional endeavor that you're going through. It is a spiritual endeavor that you're going through. It is super meaningful. It is super serious. And, in that moment, and I think bow hunting and rifle hunting, whatever you choose to use, I think whenever you're at that like 100th of a second, sort of, to me, it's, and I call it a chasm, the chasm between life and death. Like you're going to be the executor of life and death at that point in time. And I think there is an inherent piece of sadness in that endeavor, in the activity. Now, some of us may experience it in a more visceral way, that there is maybe tears, or maybe there's like a real lump in your throat, sickness in your stomach kind of scenario when you do execute and you do kill. And others are like, I never get sad, I never get emotional. And I'm like, you probably do, you just don't recognize it, or it just is a fleeting moment, and that's okay. I'm not suggesting that everyone needs to be super emotional about things. I just think that it's part of us being a hunter. I think that there's this respect for life and this respect for wildlife, and that is shown in our empathy for wildlife. And empathy typically is tied with emotion, and that's okay. So to me, that's where I think Blood Origin has, from the get-go, we were very, very, I almost prided myself in being able to peel the onion layers of anybody that I interviewed to get to that rawness. And sometimes that rawness came through in, someone crying and in being emotional.
I mean, do I dare to say, if that connection isn't there, is it time for self-reflection on why you're in the woods anyway?
Yes and no. I think we've all, it's an evolution. And so we've been there. Like I was there. I came in as a very old, sort of late adult onset hunter, right? I only started hunting in the States when I was 26, 27. And I had to go through the phases of this thing that is hunting. And one of those phases is like, you want to kill a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
We've all been there. And in that moment, you're really not thinking that way. And that's okay, because that typically happens when you're 14, 15, 16. The problem is when we were all 14, 15, 16, and I wasn't in that phase, I'm talking to you guys because I wasn't hunting then. You don't have social media. So any of the dumb shit that you did, which you did a lot of, didn't end up on the internet. But today it does. And it goes around the world in 2 minutes. And as a typical 14, 15, 16-year-old, you don't think with no part of your brain at all. And that hurts us. But there's nothing really you can do about it. You just hope that, someone is listening to this, or something that someone else is saying, hey, be a little bit more respectful with wildlife. Hey, clean up the deer before you post it. Don't sit on the back of the deer and hold its antlers up. Those kinds of things will certainly help the image of hunting and the image of hunters.
I am a huge proponent of that. I've been on record saying that the tongue, remove any parts of the arrow that still happen to be there if it happened to be not the perfect shot.
Yeah, well, Chris is about to go to Africa, and he's about to understand.
Yeah,
it's once you kill that animal, it takes them 45 minutes to get the animal ready. Yeah. For photos.
It's so critical. It's like you said, as soon as you hit that send or share or post, it's out there. It's out there forever.
It's out there forever, and you have no idea who's going to get it.
Exactly. We've talked about it, Chris. I know we've talked about it. You got to keep in mind, all right, maybe that picture is completely acceptable for us. We got to think about the person that's never even been exposed to anything outdoor related, and they see a tongue hanging out, a field dress cavity, spiking the beer on the deer antlers. Maybe it's not the end of the world with inside that, the hunting camp core, but to somebody else, it's like, what the hell is? And then you guys recorded it, and then you guys posted it. Like that's the type of stuff that we fight daily.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of us, like with either a social media account or trying to grow a brand. It's so crucial to execute that awareness and that caution. Without a doubt, it happens every day, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I guess we can kind of get into some question and answer here a little bit more than usual. So I always like to start by asking, on every hunt, what are your 3 most essential pieces of gear?
Yeah, you got to remember, I'm a young hunter still, man. I don't get to hunt nearly as much as anybody thinks. And I'll give you an idea. In 2022, I did better in 23. 2022, I hunted total of 3.5 days total. So 3 essential pieces of gear. I have a chest harness that goes with me everywhere. Chest harness has binos, has a rangefinder, has a knife, has a knife sharpener on it, and that literally goes everywhere with me, all around the world. I'm a pants guy. I never wear shorts whilst I hunt. And typically we're hunting, early mornings and wet. So gaiters are an essential item for me. What else? I think that's about it. Gaiters are typically a big item that I always use, and then I have my chest harness. My chest harness goes everywhere with me.
Okay. Quick shout out to Nighthawk Footwear. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they have some great Nighthawk Footwear.
Nighthawk.
I actually think they're watching the show right now. We had them on.
They've got some gaiters.
That's what they make. Not only that, they're the only ones in the industry that have an integral LED light built into them. So
an LED light on the gator.
Yep, you can see where you're stepping. No more worrying about looking down for a headlamp.
I may have to
take proof whole line.
May have to check them out, or they can just find us and reach out to us.
There you go, Nighthawk. You heard it.
You heard it there, Nighthawk.
So, what would be your dream hunt?
Oh, easy, super easy. If you haven't been following Blood Origins, in November last year, I found my grandfather's 416 Rigby. It's been gone for 30 years. I found it. I bought it, and I've got an import permit already. We're waiting for the export permit out of South Africa. My grandfather in 1950 hunted along a river called the Save River in Mozambique, and he was a buffalo guy. And so my bucket hunt, unfortunately, there's no buffalo there today. But there's potential opportunity for a hunting operator to go into these areas in the next couple of years and build back up a buffalo herd. So my dream hunt is to take that 416 Rigby, go back to the same place my grandfather hunted for buffalo, and hunt a buffalo, open sights, no scope, in the same place my grandfather walked. So that's easy, simple.
You did have it right off the bat. You knew right away. I love it.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just a buffalo guy. He was a buffalo guy. I'm a buffalo guy. So my sort of dream list of things is all around big bovids. And so I've killed the Argentinian water buffalo. The Australian water buffalo was probably the best hunt I've ever been on, period. It was in the outback. As somebody said, when we killed the buffalo I killed, we were 8 miles east of the middle of nowhere. It was, there was no humans for about 100 miles around us. We slept in hammocks next to a river. We caught freshwater crocodiles in the river. We swam with them. We bathed with them. We had bats come in and piss on us all night. We found Aboriginal paintings that probably no white man has ever looked at before. It's just incredible hunt. Muskox is probably way up there right now in Greenland. I'll want to do that with a 416 Rigby, open sights. Obviously bison. There's also a bunch of feral cows. If you look into where feral cows live, I killed one in Northern Territory called the scrub bull. But there are a bunch of feral cows in Mexico, near the border of Arizona and Texas, that are free-ranging, old-school bulls from the bullfighting arenas. And they're completely feral.
Wow.
Okay.
Chasing them out of a helicopter instead of feral hogs?
No, not a helicopter. On foot, baby. On foot.
I have never heard of that before.
Yeah, there's feral cows in Hawaii. There's feral cows in New Zealand. There's even feral cows in like the South Texas bush.
Huh. Very interesting. I had a question, if you don't mind, Chris. I want to.
Go ahead.
I wrote it down. When it comes, one thing we honestly didn't touch too much about on, but hopefully we get a second round with you and we can talk about it more. Trophy game, trophy animals, trophy hunts. obviously, without a doubt, there is a lot of negative stigma that comes along with that. In the shortest way possible, or however much time you want to take, but I know it's a loaded question. It is how can you defend the trophy hunts? Because obviously they offer so much to the local people. It brings a source of income. It brings a source of food and necessity to maybe a local tribe if it's that far out, like in the bush. How can you touch on that real quick and just explain to the people that you're bringing more positive than negative to that area?
So I'll answer it in two ways, because there's a lot of people in the hunting community that hate trophy hunting too.
Mhm.
So if the way that I do it inside the hunting community is I say, okay, when you go hunting, do you shoot the first thing you see? So let me ask you, Dave, Chris, do you hunt when you go hunting? Do you shoot the first thing you see?
No.
Okay, so both of you are trophy hunters then. And the reason why is this, is that for some reason, you didn't shoot that first animal for some reason, because you're after a certain value set. You wanted a big animal, you wanted an old animal, you wanted a female animal, you wanted a male animal, you wanted a young animal. You defined like this thing, this value, this thing, this trophy that you are after. If you are a pure purist from a meat hunting perspective, it doesn't matter what steps out, you're going to shoot it. And if you don't, then you have selected a value, which is essentially what a trophy is, on what you decide to hunt. Now, if I was talking to someone who's not a hunter, I'll say this. Chris is about to go to Africa, and he's going to want to shoot the oldest, biggest animal he can find. His motivation when he goes is for that, and that's okay. His motivation is to trophy hunt. He's not saying, quote unquote, that he's going trophy hunting. He's going hunting. He's going hunting, and he's going hunting for the oldest, maturest animal that he can find. He's selecting for that animal. He's a selective hunter. Unfortunately, that selective hunter means he's also a trophy hunter. And so what I say to them is like, I cannot change the motivation of why Chris wants to go hunting. In the most perfect world, Chris is going to hunt in Africa because he knows the meat is going to be donated to a community. The money that he's paying is going to employ a bunch of people that typically will not get employed. He may even take some stuff to donate to a local school. He may help in a local clinic. He may help in a local construction project. I don't know. But let's be honest, and honesty is a good thing, that Chris is going to have a good time, have a great adventure, and hunt the biggest, oldest animal he can possibly find. So the motivation of the individual, I can't change. But what I can emphasize and what we can talk about is the benefits, the impacts, benefits, and consequences of the action of Chris going to hunt. That is where the heart of hunting lies. That's the heart of the reason why we call ourselves conservationists. That's why we call ourselves, philanthropists, is that money goes to do good things. So that's how I would answer that question.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have anything in the comments, Chris? I've been keeping tabs here. The boys are talking about, I think they want to do a hog hunt on the ground with a knife. I'm not going to touch that one. We'll save that one for after the show.
That's crazy, man. That's real up close and personal, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that.
Well, I've seen videos.
And get your questions in. We got a couple minutes left. We'll start wrapping up.
I've seen videos of spear hunting for hogs down in Georgia. I think that's something I wouldn't say that it's the top of my list, but it's definitely something that's on the list because it's a unique experience. So I'm with the boys on that one.
Well, let's do goals. Goals is always a very interesting question, either for yourself or for Blood Origins. Give us a short-term goal and maybe like 5-year plus goal.
Yeah, I think short-term goal would be, somebody sees the big content that we're creating and we get picked up and pushed onto like an HGTV or an AE or History or Discovery, because, the kind of content we're creating is for that audience. It's built for that audience. So it certainly would fit that audience. And the long-term goal is really just to continue what we're doing and become more and more positioned as the like go-to organization, brand, movement, whatever you want to call it, that whenever there's something happening in the hunting world, a journalist is going to find us, an editor is going to find us, a news anchor is going to find us, and they're going to quote us. They're going to ask us to give our thoughts on a certain hunting issue anywhere in the world. And we become that sort of talking authority around hunting in the way that we do it, right? We're very respectful. We're very, down the middle of the road, and we look at both angles. We're not going to cringe away from being honest if hunting is not good in a scenario, or we need to, live up to the fact that maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. That's okay. And I think, the more we do that, the better we'll be positioned. And that's where we want to live, is we want to be that spear tip of any hunting issues that's happening anywhere in the world. They'll turn to Blood Origins first and say, well, what are they saying about it?
Now, I have a question for you. Now, out of everybody that you have interviewed, is there one interview that you haven't done that you really would love to do, other than Dave and I?
Jeez, one interview that I haven't done. Yeah, I'd love to do, we're getting more and more into like the mainstream space. I'm not really, nothing against you, Dave or Chris. I'm not very much interested in people that live in the hunting community space. I'm more interested in people living in the mainstream space. So, we just finished filming. I actually got the draft of it today. We finished filming Rich Fronin, right? So Rich Fronin, Mr. CrossFit.
Yep.
We filmed him. We're going to film a lawyer who's a spearfisher woman who's been on Rogan 3 times. I'd love to do Chris Pratt. I'd love to, I want to get into the WWE world a little bit more, into the UFC world a little bit more. Max Holloway, can we get Max Holloway hunting? Those kinds of things. Those are the people that we need to like speak to specifically in the mainstream community, because their communities are not hunting communities. And if we can say like, look, this Max hunted,
right,
or he hunts, or this is his view on hunting, communicating that to his audience, well, geez, now we're starting to move needles, right? So that's where we want to be.
I think a Chris Pratt episode would be hilarious.
Be amazing. But the thing is, we're like, we're so young of an organization, but we're 1 degree of freedom away from Chris Pratt. Like, we're very good friends with Jack Carr. Jack Carr is a big fan of Blood Origins. Jack Carr and Chris Pratt are best mates.
Okay.
So
there you go.
What? Yeah. Ronda Rousey. Love to take Ronda Rousey hunting, or like get her to talk about hunting. Those are the kinds of people. Again, we're 1 degree of freedom away from Ronda Rousey.
And her and Hannah Barra doing a little catfishing.
Hannah Barron and her? Jeez, could you imagine?
Calm down, Dave.
All right. Let's this is the important part of the show. Robbie, at this point, why don't you start plugging all the social media outlets for yourself, anything Blood Origins, anything and everything. Please feel free to mention it right now.
You could just look us up, Blood Origins everywhere. Just Google us, you'll find us. But I think more importantly, if you like what we do and you support what we do, we're a charity. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we need money. And I hate to say it that way, but we do. And we need money to live and to push and to do the things that we do. And again, so a supporters program for the cost of a cup of coffee a month. If you drink 10 cups of coffee from your local Starbucks, drink 9 this month and give us the $5.14 that it costs for a small caramel macchiato. Not that I know what a small caramel macchiato costs. So $5 a month, you get put into a bunch of draws. We literally are drawing tomorrow for a $950 gift card from Spartan Precision out of the UK, the most amazing bipods and tripods. And you can win that for giving us $5 a month. We gave away a South African hunt earlier this year for $5 a month. So if you can, that'd be amazing. Step up, support us. And if you have a company, I'll take one more step further. If you have a company that wants to get a tax-deductible donation against your business, we have a conservation club that you can join. And that is at as low as $25 a month and goes all the way up to whatever amount you want to give. But we really want to get like blue-collar companies in there, plumbing companies, electrician companies, engineering companies, all of that kind of stuff. if you have a company and you want to get, don't give Uncle Sam a lot of your money and you can get a tax deduction, give it to us. We'll put it to good use, I promise.
Absolutely. For what it's worth, right off the bat, Nighthawk Footwear seems very interested. So I think the two of you will be chatting at some point.
We should get Nighthawk in our conservation club. That would be amazing.
You heard it here, Nighthawk. So thank you very much, everybody. Everybody that's tuning in on Instagram, make sure you follow along. And as always, when the show is closed out, we'll have all the links available. Gentlemen, my notes are crossed off. Robbie, an amazing show. Again, I can't say thank you enough. Thank you so much for your time and sharing it with us. I hope you'll accept another invite in the future.
100%.
Whenever you want to come on, if there's anything we can do to help you directly with Blood Origins, please just let us know. And we're here for you. 100%.
Yeah, only if you promise to talk in a South African accent, I'll come back again.
That might take a little work, but we'll work on that.
Fucking lacquer, mate.
That was horrendous.
I'm working on it. All right. I got 26 days to work on it.
There we go. There we go.
That's probably one thing we're not going to be able to chip away from me, unfortunately. No, not unfortunately.
That East Jersey accent is a little thick. I don't think we're ever getting rid of that.
It is what it is. It's all good. No, but seriously, thank you so much, Robbie.
You're welcome, boys.
Again, when we have a guest like yourself that's honestly just speaking from the heart with the passion, that's why we didn't have to do a lot. You were just telling your story, and a lot of the guys here appreciate it. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
No, thank you, Robbie, and thank you for everything you do for the outdoor community. I mean, this is what you're doing is honestly what Dave and I would hope to be doing one day. That's the reason we started the show is we're not here to make money. This costs us money, and we love doing it. We love spreading the word, and hopefully we can find success like you one day.
Measure the story, not the inches.
There we go. Cheers.
So, with that, thank you, Robbie, for taking some time out. I know you got a busy schedule, so this was something we wanted to get set up, and we finally did. I'm a fan, and I'm actually, it's awesome that I actually finally got to talk to you now. So this is this is kind of a cool thing for me. Thank you, everybody, for what was that, Dave?
You're blushing.
All right. Well, when we have Hannah Barron on, then we'll see what. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. Catch us every Friday at 7:30 right here on Instagram, also on YouTube and on Facebook. Again, if you haven't already, please hit Dave, myself, or Rob up. This is your last chance to pick up tickets for our 2024 fundraiser raffle. Hopefully, we'll be able to do more this year, but this is the first one we were able to do. All the proceeds are benefiting the American Bear Foundation, Wounded Warriors in Action, and the NYPD Archery Team. $20 a ticket. Could be the best $20 you ever spent. It's like a $3,000 prize package. So stay tuned. We will be doing the drawing very soon. Last chance to get your tickets in. Definitely hit us up and we'll get you in. Again, Robbie, thank you for taking the time out. We really appreciate it. This was a great show. So just thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So with that, everybody, have a good night and we'll see you next time.
Good night.